Welcome to this demonstration on how to draw a bird in a bird bath. I have grabbed a tray of my Stabilo CarbOthello pastel pencils and selected a few soft pastel sticks for this demonstration. I have drawn my image on a gray PastelMat paper for this demonstration. I am using a very light violet color pastel stick to begin building a base layer to the background. I will blend this color with a sponge applicator around the bird and then come back with a shade of light blue to begin developing the blue sky in the background. I am referencing an adorable picture of a bird from Paint My Photo website for this lesson. And I'm going to create a blue sky and white clouds in the background to brighten up this painting of our little backyard bird. It takes 2 or 3 layers of color in order to blend a smooth surface. This will be the first of a few small drawings I will be doing. This is a 5 by 7 surface, and I plan on drawing a set of these small birds in a bird bath that I think will make a great wall decoration. Now that I've added a few layers of color to the background, I can develop the dark values in the body of the bird. This is the blocking in phase where I apply the darkest values to the bird first. I always work from the darkest values to the lightest in all my drawings. I am blocking in the black rather loosely, and once I've completed all the areas of shading, I will be able to blend it into the paper using a rubber tip blending stump. Because this is a small painting, I will primarily be using my pastel pencils for all the details in the body of our bird. I'm going to define the tail feathers a little bit, and this area beneath the feathers has a dark shadow that I will define here a little bit. I am going to intensify some of the darkest black throughout the shape of the body of the bird, especially where the shadows are being cast underneath the beak of the bird. I'm going to use my rubber-tipped blending stick to push and blend some of this dark value into the paper for the first layer of this drawing. If you are looking for some art materials, I will leave some links in the description area from Blick and Amazon. I'm going to switch to a dark blue to add some color to the cap of the bird's head. I'll blend this area a little bit with a sponge applicator, and then I'm switching to a dark yellow to establish a base layer of the breast area of our bird. I'm going to switch to a cream color for the upper breast area of the bird. I am just trying to establish a foundation of our midtones and light values in the body of the bird. It's important not to use your lightest values or your lightest whites until you've established a strong base of layers of color. Now that I have blended our lighter values, I would like to try to define the beak area of the bird. This is a very small area to define, so it's important to have a very sharp point on your pastel pencils. I like to use my General's manual small pencil sharpener to do this. I am using a very sharp dark blue pastel pencil to draw the darkest shading between the beak of the bird. And I'm coming back with the black pastel to try and define the darkest line underneath the top beak. I am also intensifying the darkest shadow beneath the bird's beak and to the top area of the upper beak. I'm using a very light yellowish orange to define the lighter value in the actual beak of the bird. I am switching to a copper color orange to define some of the color in the side of the beak. A little bit of bright yellow will help define the surface of the beak. I'm switching to a bright orange to intensify some of the color in the small beak. I'm going to shade and contour the feathers of the bird using a light purple. I am trying to establish my mid-tones before applying my light shades for the feathers. Now that I have a good base and shading throughout the bird's body, I can use my white pastel to begin developing some of the feather details. I am still just blocking in these areas and trying to follow the pattern of how the feathers lay. Once I have established the lightest areas in the bird's breast, I will try to add a little bit of a cream color to blend some of this feather texture to the lower area of the bird's body. So now you can begin to see the underlying texture of the bird's plumage. Before I complete the feather details, I need to complete the background of this drawing. I am going to establish a line of bushes and try to maintain a blurry effect to this line of trees and bushes. I will add some dark green to try and shape some of the bushes, but I will blend it out so that it still maintains more of a blurry effect. I would like to brighten up the sky with some white clouds, and first I will add a little bit darker blue to create some contrast in the background. I will use my sponge applicator to blend the sky and create some soft, fluffy clouds in the sky. I really like how this brightens up our painting already. I am going to begin working on the bird bath before adding details to the bird's feathers. I am using a light pink as a base layer, and I will use a combination of a terracotta color, blues and grays to define the stone texture in the bird bath. So I am just adding a few splashes of color to try and create that look of granite in the water basin. To complete the granite colors, I'm adding some gray, blue, and cream color to the stone. I'll also add some white to bring out some of the highlights and crystals found in the granite stone. I'm going to shade some of the tail feathers, and then we can move on and begin developing the colors within the reflective water. Some of the main elements of the water in the bird bath will be the reflections of the terracotta and also some of the green from the bushes in the background and the shades of blue reflecting from the sky. I will establish some dark yellow that is reflecting from the bird's belly area. I am going to blend these colors using a paper stump to push the color together and blend them lightly. Now that most of the surrounding colors have been added, I'm going to shade with a dark blue to the background wall of the bird bath to give it a greater dimension and depth to the bird bath. I'd like to add a little more blue reflection to the water before I begin developing any clouds reflecting. Now that we've established the colors that are reflecting from our surroundings, I want to add some of the light white clouds to the reflection in the water. I'm using a very light gray to begin developing the clouds in the reflecting pool of water. I will add a little bit more of the cloud texture to the water. I want to do this gradually so not to add too much color. Next, I will use my light blue pastel pencil to create some horizontal strokes that represent movement and reflection in the water. I will use my white pastel as the final touch to create some of the reflective highlights from the movement of the water. I'm going to add a little more darker shadows to the back side of the bird bath, mostly created from the bird sitting in the water. I'm going to add a little bit more cloud texture to the water because it seems to have blended out too much. And then I think our water basin reflections are almost done. I'm going to define the tail feathers with my white pastel. Then I will be able to come back with my black pastel to shade the darkest color between the feathers. And it's important to have a very sharp point on your pencils to create this line and transition in the feathers. When placing my hand on the artwork, I use a piece of glassine paper to rest my hand so I don't smudge or cause any oils from my hands to penetrate my art paper. There is a shadow being cast onto the bird's tail feathers from the side of the bird, so I'm beginning to add a darker shade of gray first and then darken in the darkest areas of the tail feathers to create that shadow. I am using a violet color to create some of the fluffy down feathers at the bottom of his wing. There are some downy white feathers that I will begin using my white pastel to add some of the feather details. I will use my white pastel to create a heavier layer of feathers in the breast area of the bird to build the feather texture. The bird ruffles his feathers and fluffs them out as he gets ready to bathe in the bird bath. I want to add some light gray to the side of his face feathers. This side has more of a cast shadow, so the color is darker than the whiter area on the other side of his face where the sun is casting the light. I want to add some small dark feathers along the edge of the bird's head and the side of his body. Now that the sky has been completed, some of these small feathers will extend into the background sky. There are some very small feather details around the bird's eye, so I'll add a few very soft little feathers in that area. I will also add a little bit of a blue glow to the bird's eye and add the final white highlight to the eye. I will use a very light violet to create some individual fine feathers along his face, and some light gray to create some highlights in the crown of the bird's head. As a final touch, I'm using a very dark ultramarine blue to create some color in the head feathers. I hope you have enjoyed this demonstration on drawing a bird in the bird bath. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and don't forget to press the like button. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to sharing more videos with you. See you next time.